Dale Herring and Jim Friedel, and we are waiting for the man to come across from working his fingers feverishly in Judah's spot to over into his spot here. But so how many titles? I've lost count. I was actually thinking.
I don't even count them. I just run around each day. I think...
Is like any one of them that says chief cook, bottle washer, or anything like that?
I think that's probably pretty accurate.
Maybe we should just say what you don't do.
That'd be fair.
I don't know if we should do that out in the air or not. I mean,
I've been associated with it for 15 years, so I guess that's why they're like, well, who knows something about this?
Yeah, well, that's, what is it? What was that cereal commercial? Mikey will like it. What was
I'd like to try it.
Jim will do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keeps me young, keeps me having fun. I like challenges.
How's the cycling thing going? Bicycling going?
So not doing as much cycling right now because of the zoning official or zoning officer in our department wanted to try the 10-miler. So I've been up in my running mileage to do the 10-miler, so I'm going to run in that. We've got
Yona's running that. Speaking of which, today is my beautiful wife's 61st birthday. And,
awesome.
Birthday.
As soon as we finish the show here, we're running up to D.C., going to do a little jazz at the Blue Note, and then we're going to go out for opera on.
Wow.
awesome.
On
You guys
Sunday.
look good. I think we're ready to rock and roll.
There you go. Judah's voice changed.
Quiet on set. Quiet on set.
I got the look, by the way.
Good Friday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk with Keith Smith. Thank you kindly for joining us on a rainy Friday in Central Virginia, the show that airs on every social media platform known to mankind, and Greene County is in the spotlight. Greene County has been a topic of conversation on Real Talk with Keith Smith and the I Love Seville network for about 18 months now. We're talking economic vitality, we're talking growth, strategic growth, we're talking jobs, we're talking great schools, and in close proximity to the epicenter of employment, the city of Charlottesville. Greene County, we are very bullish on. Keith Smith, you're a huge fan of Greene County.
And apparently a great use of human resources by having one guy do 7 jobs. I think it was 7. I lost count.
I know what the feeling is like today. As I'm directing the show with Judah Wickower, enjoying a little family time in California, our traditional director. But Keith, who do you have on the show today?
So I've got 2 Greene County rock stars. To my right is Dale Herring. You're the chair now, right?
Yes, sir.
The chair, and to his right is Jim Friedel. I don't know which title you want me to use. Planning director?
Main is planning director and zoning administrator, and then
So why don't we kick it off with quick intros? We'll do Jim first, since your list is a little longer, right? So why don't you start with what do you do at Greene County other than everything?
So yeah, a little bit of everything. I pitch in where I can. So I have several titles currently. Main job is planning director and zoning administrator. I'm also interim deputy county administrator and interim water and sewer director, which is one of the topics that you wanted to get into today. So hopefully I'll be able to answer those questions.
Yeah, we got the man at the table. Dale, introduce everybody to yourself.
Sure. My name is Dale Herring. I'm the at-large supervisor. I'm currently in my 8th and final year on the board. When I'll be running for re-election again. Full-time, I do work for the school system within Greene County as Director of Technology. So I've known Jim for several years, and I think Jim has left off a few of his actual job descriptions that we've assigned to.
Fill us in.
Well, I think we forgot to mention the fact he's a tour guide. If you want to take a tour of Greene County, give Jim a call. He'll schedule a tour for you. That temporary IT guy for meetings. So when the IT messes up during a meeting,
it's his fault.
It's his fault. Yeah. So we blame him for it.
And also, you're part of this Greene County bike race we do. Aren't you like
Tour de Greene?
Tour de Greene, thank you.
Actually, I ride with all those folks. When I used to be on the Board of Supervisors, it was always campaign season, so I haven't done that yet.
Oh, you haven't actually done that race?
No, this year I was planning on being part of it and had a charity run for a spouse of one of our workers, and so I skipped to do that instead.
So let's kick it off with this. Tell us tell the folks who may not know what actually a planning director does, right? And zoning administrator.
These fellas are Greene County through and through. I mean, you can't ask for better evangelists, representatives of Greene County than these guys right here. I want to know what he does and how he breaks up his day, because I would imagine scheduling is difficult. But before we get into that, for all those that are watching the show, and you got 2 media outlets watching you guys right now, a newspaper and a TV station, why should we be super excited like Keith and I are and bullish on Greene County? Tell us about all the special things cooking.
Greene is growing, for one thing. I guess the question is, where do I stop when I start talking about Greene County? Our school system, we were one of 4 school divisions in the state that remained open during COVID. Our school division has,
I'll give you props for that.
Yeah.
That's legit.
Yeah, so I mean, it was tough. We did it. Our schools are growing. We've got a lot of resources for our students. We've got a great staff that's doing quite a bit of good. So our school system is great. So if you're looking for a place to settle down for your kids, the school system is great. We've got a lot of business that looks at Greene County. We're trying to grow in a smart, intelligent way. For example, we're trying to maintain our rural character in the western part of our county, while concentrating the actual development in the eastern part of the county on the main corridor, or 29 corridor. So we're trying to look at that. We're trying to also look at developing tourism so that we can actually improve what we're offering our citizens without putting additional burden on them through the taxes. So we've got a lot of good things going on in Greene County. We've got great staff. Jim's a great example of that. They're very
Sounds like you
dedicated.
just got one guy.
We have a great staff member. So it's a great place to be. People are very friendly for the most part. If you need something, they're always there. I've grown up in Greene County. My family's from Greene County, and it's where I made my home. So I don't think I'd have it any other way.
Can you guys want to say hi to Neil Williamson?
Hey, Neil.
Hey, Neil.
Zing him a little bit if you want to. He's watching right now.
I'm pretty sure he's going the other way. It's coming.
Neil's too easy of a target to zing.
We love you, Neil. Jim, Greene County for you. Why are you excited?
Greene County for me, I will point out, Dale didn't mention that the schools are all fully accredited, which is unusual and rare. So usually 1 or 2 of them need a couple extra steps.
What does that mean?
So it is a criteria that measures success across the board. The state reviews all that. You have to have a certain level of test scores. You have to have, I don't actually know all of the criteria. I just know it's hard. And the fact that all of our schools are accredited is amazing. Our graduation rate for our students is above the region and the state. For Greene County, I think the simplest thing is potential. Greene is a beautiful place right now. It has a lot of potential to grow, to offer things to new employers and to new residents while still retaining the things that we all love about Greene. And the one thing that doesn't get mentioned, it really doesn't fall into part of planning or government, but the people are amazing. There's a quiet confidence and support among the people in Greene County. You've met the folks, and if you're out and you need something, it doesn't matter who you are. There's no strangers in Greene County. People will give you the shirt off your back if you're in need. And a lot of people just don't realize that because nobody's out there bragging about it. They just do it because it's the right thing to do.
You just did it. How many residents are in Greene County?
Just 20,000?
The latest is 21,500.
Yes.
How has the population increased, say, over the last 5 or 10 years?
Over the last 5 or 10 years, it's started to increase again. The last 10 years prior to through 20, it was an 11.5% increase in population. The last 2 years, that's ticked up a little bit. So the census data was 20,500. Now we're 21,500. So that's 1,000 in 2 years.
Mm-hmm. So Jerry kind of alluded to this for years. I can't remember what show this is, 430 something. I used to always say, I think the next growth area was going to be the Zions Crossroads area. And I've walked that back quite a bit for many, many reasons, and we'll kind of leave them off the table for the moment. But I think you guys, Greene County, is now positioned
100%
to take that spot. And And we've been throwing around this number of, you've got about 2,000 approved lots in some shape or form. Jim, you want to jump into that and put some quantity to that? What does that
Sure.
mean, and where are we standing?
Right now, we have 1,870 lots that are approved.
Okay, I was close.
But also, in addition to that, it's not listed here as an older approval, which is, this is just recent active things, but we have probably another 800 senior-only lots that are
Yeah.
currently approved that
Good.
we don't have site plans in for. These are things that are active, recent rezonings, have active pursuit of development.
So let's quantify that a little bit. So we have 1,800, if I remember the number correctly, that have been rezoned.
Correct.
And they're in some process of from rezoning to site plan approval. Is that correct? They are active applications.
Some are just in the planning stages, but we have Creekside, which is a large residential development, a
Stanley
mixed
Martin Homes is
residential
doing
development. Stanley Martin Homes has 252 units
Got it.
that are almost ready for site plan approval, just
Yep.
within a month, probably not even that long. And then there's another phase of 130 single-family homes within that development that are right at the approval point
Yeah.
for development. We have another site plan in place for 120 senior apartments, and
Why'd you look at me when you said that for?
You've used that joke before, Keith.
I have. I got about 6 of them. And I
Let-
got 5 more left.
I know all his jokes. I
I'm
know.
not speaking
There's 5
very
more
clearly.
left.
I'm sorry.
By the
I
way,
said-
Dale knows them too because we spend too much time together in meetings.
There's senior apartments, not super senior apartments.
Oh.
So we'll have to
Remember,
wait
I'll
on
make
that.
you wear that hat I put over there.
And so those are the key things. Well, actually, I'm sorry. We have mixed-use development where we have townhouses, commercial, and office space and light industrial space. That is, it's in the final site plan phases also, and that's 282 units and several 100,000 square feet of commercial space.
That sounds like about 1,000 real quick coming through, right?
Correct.
Around 1,000.
Well, for approval, as you know,
Yeah, yeah.
it takes a long time to grade it out, put all the infrastructure in, start building the
Well,
houses.
that was the question I was going to ask Dale now. So it sounds like we got somewhere around 50% of the lots that are in the pipeline that are about ready to spit out of the site plan process and start moving earth. We talk about the show all the time, inventory. There's no inventory, and I'm going to talk some recent numbers in your county that's a bit shocking on that end of it. So when do you think these things are going to hit the market, Dale?
I'd probably say about 3 to 5 years, would you think? That's when we would start seeing. I mean, they're not going to be completed in a 5-year time frame, but you'll probably see the houses within a 3-year time frame once they go through the process. That's about the average, I would think.
Some a
Yeah.
little quicker.
Yeah.
The single families will start in that and take a little time to develop, but the townhomes will go quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's if they all start, they start Creekside, for instance, it's probably about a year's worth of horizontal development work before they can start going
Going up.
vertical. So a little numbers about your county. I've sent you a text message on it. So
You did.
You know
Say hi to
that.
John Blair. John
John
Blair's
Blair.
giving him props
Hey,
here.
John.
First 2 months of this year versus the first 2 months of 2022. Volume of sales are down in your county quite a bit, by almost 40%.
Yeah, they're-
Jumped down from 20, last year was 46 sold in the first 2 months, 28 this month. But the the median sales price jumped about 40%. That's $81,000. So that's roughly 24%. So if you bought a home in the first 2 months of February of 2022 in your county, it is now up 24% in value. You know, that's, and oh, by the way, it's a, where's the number? Hold on a second here. I can tell you the number here for a second. $417,000 was the median sales price.
Yeah, I think people in green are actually reminding us of that recently. The reassessments went out. And they
Every
had the
jurisdiction.
Yeah, the notification.
We all felt it.
Yeah, notifications went out to our citizens, and they got that. So they're definitely calling concern that. But that's the reason why. Like I said, the sales were down. They were down a while back. Like I think one stat I have was like 34.8% on the car report that I looked up. Your stats are more current.
Thank you for noting that.
Yeah, but the stats are.
He prides himself in that.
The number of sales are down, but the prices are up in Greene County, which means that people want to live in Greene County. They want to move there.
24%, brother.
Yeah, and that's the average. I think was reassessed for me. I've heard 25% quite frequently. I heard somebody had 40% increase.
That's specific to Green?
Yeah.
Yeah,
In the assessments.
Yeah, so I think the average is around 25%, believe it or not, which matches back to your data right there.
Does the citizen realize the assessments are out of your hands? Because
No.
that's market
No.
value there.
No, they do not. I think some do, a lot do not. The Board of Supervisors we get accused of raising the assessments to help offset costs in the county. And what a lot of people don't understand, with the recent personal property issue a year ago, real estate, when you look at the real estate taxes and so forth, it's a mechanism in place where a citizen can appeal their decision in case
This is
something is
important.
assessed incorrectly. There's also equalization. Each time you do a reassessment, the tax rate is this. To keep the same amount of revenue, your tax rate has to be this. The equalization rate can go up or go down depending upon what the assessments have done. With the personal property tax, that was never in place because it was never heard of a vehicle going up in value to the extent that it did. So people still see the personal property and they worry about the real estate. But on the notification they receive, it tells them that the tax rate at 82 cents, this is your taxes, but this tax rate may not stand, and plus there's a way to appeal the process. So equalization for us, we found, is actually at 66 cents. From 82 cents to 66. That's how much increase our assessment.
So
I
let's
give you props there. So that's important to highlight.
It's
Yeah.
very important to highlight. So let's, to make it simple, when you mean by equalization and adjusting the rate, so we got an assessed value of X.
Right.
We're going to have a budget of Y.
Right.
And the rate's going to be reduced, so we're equal. My amount of money that I pay, cash I pay, is going to be all pretty darn close to the same amount as I paid the year before.
If we equalize across the board
Yeah.
and we set the tax rate at 66 cents, then you'd pay the same thing you did before.
You're the first elected official since we've been doing this that actually made it extremely clear.
Jesse made it clear.
I think Jesse's actually talking about going the other way, actually.
Yeah, but he explained it clearly.
Yeah, he explained it.
Now, of course.
Thank you.
Now, when I say that, it doesn't mean the board will go from 82
Everything's
to
about
66.
Jesse Rutherford, as you know.
Yeah, yeah.
I think Jesse's watching
World
right
according
now.
to Jesse.
The world according to Jesse.
Yeah, you had that movie, World According to Garth, whatever it was, World According to Jesse.
You know,
I'm sure
Al
Jesse's
Gore
watching this.
created the internet, and Jesse created broadband.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
if
That's what I keep
anybody's
hearing. But it doesn't.
He'll tell you, too.
It doesn't mean that the board will set that tax rate at 66 cents.
Yeah.
We have to go through the budget process.
Sure.
So if you're looking at an 82 cents, will we go above 82? No. Will we stay at 82? I cannot say that we will.
Well, it depends on your budget, right?
Exactly. But I can almost, from my viewpoint, we'd definitely be lower at 82. We would probably be higher than 66. It's kind of like, you got to look at the budget process, and we start that on Tuesday.
So Ned Galloway sat in one of these seats and said the same thing of Albemarle County Board of Supervisors, that if you really want to know what your county's thinking and where their minds are at and what they're going to try to achieve, this budget season you're in right now is the telltale of it. Watch where the money goes.
Right.
And then you can see if you can go there. But just to put in context, the median sales price in your county, single-family detached, no new construction, in 2022 was $340. So that was as of December 2022. The first 2 months, it jumped from $340 to $418.
Wow.
That's just in 2 months. The value of the home sale, same exact type of product, I can't do the math that quickly, but jumped north of, what's that, 50, 60, almost 80,000. There's your $80,000 right there. So what are we going to do, gents? What can we do, gentlemen, at this table to help housing affordability and help move things?
What does housing affordability look like in Green?
There you go. That's a better question.
That's
Way
right
better
now, to be honest with you, if you have to look at a housing affordability, I think that we're in trouble. Because you've got what people don't seem to understand, and this is one of the things, when you look at housing affordability, and I mentioned this the last time I was on your show, you've got to look at the inventory. The inventory. A lot of residents don't want to see a new subdivision come in or a new inventory, a new residential growth. The problem is, though, if you don't have the new inventory, people who can afford a $400,000 home may end up paying that amount for a smaller, less expensive home because they want to live in that area. So what happens is you're taking the inventory away, the prices become inflated, and then people are priced out of their neighborhood. We've had different developments where they try to look at, and Jim may want to speak to this, as grants to do affordable housing, which doesn't necessarily mean affordable in what I would consider affordable, but it lowers the price that they would sell that property for. And you get the comments, will it look the same as the other places? There's a stigma associated with affordable housing that people don't seem to understand that affordable housing is probably the house that you have purchased 10 years ago and that you're now living in, and that is considered affordable housing.
So two terms I've changed around, as you know, because
Right, 'cause-
we've had this discussion.
Yeah.
I use housing affordability, not
Versus-
affordable housing.
right.
The other interchangeable term is a starter home, right?
Yeah.
How a home for somebody to start their family, to start their moving up of the housing ladder and the income growth, generational wealth ladder. That out of the 2,000 or 1,800 coming in here, that may be some help there, but at 418, that's not affordable, right? And the second follow-up from my question on that is, at these prices, can the person who's working in your school system or in your one of those 12 hats you wear, whatever the heck you do?
I can address that. So the median income, so the west side of Greene County, the more populated, so the west side's more rural, the dense population in the east side.
Ruckersville.
The median income is about $67,000 a year. On the eastern side, where it's more urban-esque, it's about 86. So
Oh, give those numbers again? That's a great stat.
$86,000 a year on the east side. It's 67 overall. It's in the high 40s on the west side.
So east side, for those who are listening, is like Ruckersville.
Right.
The key growth area, right?
that
29
kind
and
of area.
33.
Got it.
And last time I ran the numbers at 415, you needed to make $102,000 a year to be able to afford the median home price at 415.
And that's that's not an individual; it's a household, right?
Right.
Right. So the household would have to make that amount of money.
Still $20,000 more, well, $15,000 more than the highest median income in Greene.
How about this question from Waynesboro, Kevin Yancey? Ask both gentlemen if they ever envision new homes in Greene County starting above 400,000.
Did I ever envision
In
that?
general?
No, I mean, recently, yes. 5 years ago, probably not.
And
Maybe
if we
10
go
years
to
ago.
starter homes, because of the cost of materials, the cost of labor, cost of land, everything, interest.
And not, again, you guys do a great job over there, but the red tape is not helping either. It's 25% of 24 and change of all new construction is some version of red tape. So, I mean, there's a way that we all can help that a little bit, I think, on that end of it. But so it's more than those three.
Your basic starter homes are in the low 300s.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right. That's exactly right.
That's Neil Williamson's got a lot of questions here, guys. We got a lot of Greene County watching. This is from the king of content, Neil Williamson. What type of housing product is currently on the market in Greene? And he certainly wants us to bring up one of the most recent pieces of content he created. He's using the hashtag Content Slinger, which he likes to do. The Charlie Armstrong project with Southern. So why don't we start first with the, and you guys can go anywhere you want. I would never push you past the point of, too much respect for you guys here. So how about the housing type question from Neil first, and then we got 8 or 9 other ones. Housing product currently on the market in Greene, Keith.
So I'm looking at that right now. So I'm gonna let somebody jump in. I'm actually doing the stat. One of the interesting things that I'm looking at quickly, the proposed attached and detached. So these are new construction homes that haven't been built yet that are hitting the market. You guys kind of win the prize there. It looks like you've got the most of around the jurisdiction.
How about this question? I'll pivot Neil's question. What type of housing product is missing from Greene?
There you go. Missing middle.
Yeah.
Because you guys got a lot of single-family detached in Greene. What is missing?
Well,
Real quick, I just want to comment that I've always thought of Neil as a slinger, but you called it content.
Content slinger.
That's not what I thought.
somewhere Jamil is laughing.
Well done. Well
Yeah,
done.
I mean,
Well done.
again, if you look at the latest car reports, we're looking at here, and you got, like, so your day is more to date. The latest car report, Greene County, for example, in townhomes and condos, we had zero on the market.
Right.
Yeah, so you have zero. So I can tell you right now, I'm looking at proposed attached right now in Greene County. You literally only have one, and that is an Octavia Highlands is a subdivision. There's only one. That's in the market that you could potentially buy right
And that's
now.
probably actually inaccurate, because that's a single-family subdivision all the way. It's a rural division. So-
you mean somebody put
To
in
your
correct
point, to both your points, Greene
You know
has
what? You
been-
know what, my friend? When you open up the picture, guess
Green
what it
has a
is?
lot of R1.
It's a
Single-family house.
Yeah, a lot of single-family detached. What it's
Green-
missing is condos, apartments,
Right.
townhomes, starter homes.
Exactly.
Because how are the folks that are going to work service or frontline jobs be able to afford in Green if that housing stock doesn't exist?
Now, starter homes, Greene has a lot of single-family starter homes. As we discussed, though, starter homes, what they used to be and what they are now, I don't know that you can afford a starter home when you're starting. Because it's $315, $320 for a starter home.
Yeah, so there is, I can look at it here real quick, the most inexpensive home in Greene County is at $250. This is not new construction. It's over on Spotswood Trail,
And I bet you that DOM is long in the tooth, the days on the market.
11, which,
Oh, that's not
which
bad.
is really not that bad.
No, that's not bad at all.
But you've got some at 147 that are like sub 300. When you start getting down into the 400s, or the DOMs are much shorter on that end of it. But I can tell you, as a chairman of a land trust, in order to hit the 80% AMI, now the AMI number is a little different than your number. It's 110, right? Because that's a HUD number. On that end of it, single individual to hit 80% AMI is around $57,000 is the number in income, and they really only can afford something about 225 in today's market, right? Interest rates could affect that, right? Up or down a little bit. So you've got zero on the market right now that fits that bill at all.
I mean, 225 is probably an attached product in most jurisdictions.
And we have very few of those. Of the site plans that are in the process of approval, we have 128 townhomes in the Stanley Martin phase of Creekside.
Yeah, good.
We have 282 townhomes near the Sheets.
Yeah.
Right there. We have, we've just finished 100 apartments. We have another 120 apartments available. And then we have site plans that are coming in for 165 townhomes. So we're catching up. Green traditionally didn't
question
have any
becomes-
detached or attached homes.
Right.
But now we're starting to catch up.
And that process all started quite some time ago, right? I mean, those have been in the pipeline for years, right?
They have.
For years. So, I'd rather
Well, some of these have been in as single family, and they went back through rezoning to change over because the market
Change.
approves or
Yeah.
prefers attached homes, probably because of affordability.
Affordability.
Well, you get closer
Lifestyle,
to that
people don't wanna
250
mow
number,
grass.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think, we'll find out, right? But, what development costs on land acquisition and all that stuff. But density is key. The more that you can put in it, the lower the price you can do on things. I mean, I don't know what their price points are going to be, but it'd be close to 250 for sure. And new homes, from a buyer's perspective, right now in today's environment, the builders can offer a little bit more incentives, right? That could help people kind of get in there a little bit, closing cost incentives and so forth and so on. That makes it a little bit more attractive on it, that they can kind of squeak in at that price point and start building that generational wealth.
A lot of questions for you guys. A lot of questions. You want to jump in, Dale, with something?
No, I was just thinking, you're talking about affordability in homes. I can remember my first home was at 10% interest rate.
Yeah,
Go
but
And
it
you were
was-
happy to get it, right?
Yeah.
But it was $100,000.
It was below $100,000, and we actually assumed a loan, and we were happy to get it, to be honest with you. I'm just trying to think how your kids today, how they can make it.
And what year was that?
Make it work. It was like, I won't say, when I was young, probably 5 years ago.
You want me to do it, Jerry, or should you
Yeah,
do
you
it?
go ahead and do
You
it.
go ahead and do it. My first home that we bought in 1987 was 18%.
Wow, thank you.
And it was 150 grand, by the
And
way.
you were happy to get it.
I was happy to get
Yeah.
it, happy to get in there, happy to build that ladder up. We refinanced it, like, I've lost count how many times in 13 years, and finally got it down to like 6%.
The only
So-
reason people are so disenchanted with rates today is because they're getting brainwashed by a 24/7 news cycle. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, rates in the sixes, even in the low sevens, are fantastically low historically.
I've quoted this. If you pull up the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, any one of those things since 1972, the average is 7.1%.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're right in the wheelhouse here.
Well, we talked about that when it started happening. I'm on record of saying that when interest rates were below 3%, folks, don't get used to this. This is not normal.
You did
right?
say that. You did say that. How about this question from the feed? And this is a really good one. And this is something we've been saying on the I Love Seville show for a couple years now. That Greene County, and this was meant as a compliment, although some in Greene may not take this as a compliment, that Greene County has so much positive going for it with schools and with some development, housing, with infrastructure, that it's on the cusp of becoming the next Crozet. The next Crozet, Virginia. Now, that would probably make some folks bristle, the old guard in Greene County,
Right.
that we're comparing them to
Well,
Crozet.
quantify that in volume or
It's
lifestyle.
its own ecosystem where
Yeah.
you don't have to leave, you can stay there,
Yeah,
you have
yeah.
quality of life, you have schools, you have housing.
So
I mean,
you could say the same thing as Lake Monticello, right? So when people say Crozet, they kind of think of a different price point, right?
Crozet's elevated.
Is elevated
Yeah.
in it. But Lake Monticello, right, we have 4,300
Homes there.
homes there. We've got Food Lion. We got 13 restaurants, yada, yada, yada. So it's your own little thing. If you didn't, when I was building houses there for 20 years, I literally never left it.
Everything you
Because everything
need
I needed was
right
there.
Yeah, you stayed. Everything you did in Fluvanna, you did in Fluvanna. Your money stayed in Fluvanna. You stayed in Fluvanna.
That's literally what happened. I hired Fluvanna people.
Yeah.
I hired all that kind of great stuff. Everything stayed in Fluvanna. And I want to get to something in a minute that's a little old, but I'm going to let you guys jump in what Jerry's talking about.
Okay. I mean, basically, that statement, first off, is a pretty accurate statement. Right now, we're trying to keep Greene citizens in Greene County. We're trying to make sure they have everything they need within the community. We are looking at broadband out to 2025. We should have broadband all across the county. Once that's in place, people can do, if they need to do anything remote, they can do it remotely through broadband, through internet connections, or whatever. We want to have health care in Greene County. We want to have schools in Greene County where they can go. We like to see communities where the kids could actually, at some point, actually either walk or bike to their school. Kind of like you see, you think of years ago, and that's one of the projects that I was hoping for in the Ruckersville area, but I'm not sure it was voted down. I think it was voted down 3-2. That was a Wood Park project.
You were on the positive side, right?
Yes, I was on the positive side. To me, Greene has got the potential to be what everybody wants it to be, as long as we can get out of our way and make sure we work toward that goal.
Look at that. He's squirming in his seat.
Well, it's a good
Just go tell him to be quiet.
it's a good way to answer the question you asked me. What does a planning director do?
Yeah.
We interface and work with the public. What does the public want Greene County to be? And the public wants the Ruckersville area, from the Albemarle County line up to Walmart on 29 and 33, to be something
Urban
that it isn't
density.
currently.
Yeah.
They want that to be a place, a sense of community, so that we start having interconnectivity, both visually, place type wise, walkability, drivability, so you don't have to get out on 29, take your life in your hands to go 16 feet down the road to the next place. You'll be able to drive without being on the big road, walk, have lunch, have work, have a place to live. That's what the community wants. It's in the community plan for that growth area. That protects the rural area. That keeps the beauty in the rural area.
I read an article this morning.
I love that.
On Zillow. And they did an analysis last year that homes that had high walkability score sold for 34% more than ones that did not. So,
Yeah.
so walkability has value. It does that, and it was interesting because some folks may say, well, if you do increase density, people won't walk. But according to Zillow, anyway, and what they were doing, a lot of people just walked. They walked.
Yeah.
I walk from my office to Studio X. I may walk to a bar called Tavola on a regular basis, or may not. I may not. My mother didn't like me when I said that the other day. She goes, people now know where you walk. I said, well, whatever.
Yeah.
We're going to do that. So, look, I'm going to use the word NIMBY because I can't think of another word than that, right? There's an article, there's a white paper written here that's old. It's 2011, but the data is right. It talks about the effects of housing on the local economy. So we've got roughly 2,000 homes ready to come on there. What is that effect going to be on the local economy of Greene? How is that going to benefit Greene County?
You want me to start or you want to start?
You can start.
More residents means you have the opportunity for more retail. More retail means, first off, the way I look at it, whenever you bring a home, it's never a positive as far as your tax rate goes, because that home is going to bring either some type of drain, if you will, in the school system, a drain on the infrastructure. But what you have to look at, you have to have the rooftops to bring the retail. Everybody wants to retail without the rooftops. It doesn't happen that way. Walmart, Lowe's, Starbucks, they would never have been in Greene County with the rooftops. So you bring the rooftops in, and then our retail will grow. And it begins to help develop our economy, so our economy grows beyond the point where you see that negative impact. So with this additional people moving into Greene County, it's already been pre-approved. And it's been approved for some time now. What you'll see is once they come in, you have a greater population. The retail giants, if you will, or industry will see a greater population. They'll want to come into Greene and develop their 29 corridor. You'll see more businesses come into the 29 corridor. So you see more outlets, and our tax base will begin to grow in that area. Now, the problem you run into, you've got a limited geographical area to make all that development happen, and that's where Jim comes in. I'm sure you can add to that as far as how they develop all that and plan it.
So I would say additionally, people think retail, and that is important. You have to have a certain density of population for different types of retail. But the other key factor is the more employees that you have in a concentrated area, the more likely it is that a business will locate there, because you have a talented pool of people who are currently 65% driving down here to Albemarle and Charlottesville. If they can work the same job or a slightly better job and drive 2 miles.
So 65% of your county moves out of the county to work someplace else.
To
shop, to spend.
Just to here, just to this area.
Yeah.
Some commute even further.
So this white paper basically talks about 3 things about new construction, and there's an indirect impact, a direct impact, and an induced impact. You want to take a stab at those 3 things, or would you like me to define them?
Well, the one I'm finishing the thought out. The one other thing is you mentioned it before. Government doesn't and can't control the need for housing. The market controls that.
Sure.
So if Greene County, if there's a need and a desire for people to live in Greene County, they're coming to Greene County. And if the government says, we don't want to follow the community plan and create this sense of community and density in this area, what you're actually saying is the houses that are going to come are now going to go into the western part of the county, take over the farm fields, take over the rural areas that we want to keep. So if you can make it easier for people to follow the community's plan, the more likely you are to succeed.
So the market, the developers, the housing will take the path of least resistance. That's what they'll do. That's just the way the market is.
Absolutely.
And you're spot on. If you don't encourage it in some sort of whatever your growth area is, it will migrate into the rural area.
That's something Fluvanna's going to be struggling with.
Fluvanna's already struggling with that, right? Because there isn't going to be any more development around Lake Monticello. Personally, I think we're about 2 to 3 years away before getting 400,000 gallons of water from the James River to Zions Crossroads. And then you got to go through the rezoning process. So that is going to be a decade away before anything happens in there. That's the reason why I've done a 180. Big surprise.
And if you track the communities, most communities aren't very successful at steering the majority of their growth to the growth area. If you look, it's usually 50-50 at best. Sometimes you get 55 or more that are going outside of the growth area. So the development outside of the growth area is by right development on a lot. You got a lot, you build a house.
So you're a
There's-
planning director, define by right. What does that mean?
It just means that if you own a piece of land and you're allowed to have a single-family home on there, you can build it. The larger developments and the things in the growth area typically require more infrastructure, roads, different impacts on schools, traffic, water and sewer, and that comes at a cost. So if you're making it harder to get the approval, if you're adding more regulatory layers in the review process, it just adds the cost, and it makes it, as you said, it's no longer the path of least resistance. So I would ideally like to develop here, follow the community's plans, have a integrated, concentrated development that people want, but I still need to build inventory because people want to be there, and I'm a house builder, and I have to have jobs. So I'll go build it over here instead.
And the cost is greater a lot of times. And also, when people are watching, developers are watching, they're watching how the political body reacts to those plans that come forward. If the political body votes down a project that is in the growth area that matches the growth area plan and the comprehensive plan, they will go over to the western part of the county in the rural areas because it's like I said, less resistant. They can do it by right without any type of interference from the political body. And that's one thing that concerns me is the political body can make decisions that can impact that process.
You want to tackle that with Fulvana County?
You can. That's exactly what I was thinking right there. It's come up on the show.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you wanted me to go down that road.
It is what it is. It's these were public decisions, public made. There were several projects in my county that were around Lake Monticello that was in the growth area that got rejected. One was a 55 and over apartment complex that would serve 60% area medium income and below, which is, I mean, what a win-win that was.
for sure.
Got shot down. There was another project that would have brought another couple of hundred units that was adjoining Lake Monticello, got shot down. And, the world I'm in, right, the general real estate, I consult out for developers every once in a while. They won't come to Fulvana County. They will not come for that very reason. So what you'll see is a bunch of 4, 5, 6, whatever the buy right is. It's already happening. I'm having these conversations in the rural area. Drill a well, put a thing, and if that's what Fulvana County wants, great.
And the problem with that, and this is just one man's opinion, the problem with that is that creates sprawl,
Yep,
and
I
that
think
creates
that's right.
environmental issues associated with sprawl, creates more traffic, more issues on roads, infrastructure strain. I mean, it's not cohesive strategy.
So
And I'm
I-
not trying to call anybody out here. I know
No.
one of your rules here. It's just not a cohesive strategy for growth.
Yeah. So, and we're not pointing fingers.
Yeah.
This is just the reality of what is happening and what is going to happen on this. But back to this direct impact and indirect impact. You mentioned earlier, in my career, we used to build 30, 40 houses a year. I never left Lake Monticello for literally 2 decades because when I first moved there was only about 600 houses there. I only employed Fulvana people. I only employed Fulvana subcontractors. Right, that means some of them we may have pulled out because we need
I mean,
some
we're seeing this
specialty.
firsthand with Dr. Hertz Tire Plant in Scottsville.
Yeah.
With the apartment conversion there, of taking a factory that is ridden with asbestos and making it apartments. A lot of folks in Scottsville are begging for this because it's going to help jumpstart the budget, the economy, get new jobs in the community. They didn't have the political capital to make that happen.
They lost
Yeah,
it by
yep,
one
yep,
vote,
I heard
right?
it.
Lost the vote, and a counselor quit right after that vote was registered.
So the direct impact, and you guys are in this every day. So what's the direct impact for Scottsville? Since they've just now lost, I think, a couple of $100,000. Their budget is rather small dollar-wise.
Certainly
than
small
you got.
compared to Green.
The Greens.
Well, let's look at the future, and not to be critical, but it would be amazing and wonderful if a high-quality, big job manufacturing facility took that over. But what are the odds of that in this economy?
About zero.
Yeah, not great.
Not zero.
And
And,
if you-
and it's very interesting because the developers that are going to take it over is going to fix some environmental problems too there.
Yeah, they were going to do sidewalks.
Yeah.
Proffers for sidewalks, proffers for the levee to help the water, keep it from flooding Scottsville. How about this question?
I was
that's
going to
come
ask
in the
about
feed?
swimming lessons, but you covered it.
Yeah. This is from Grayson, who watches the show often. He says, how is the new development and all the new construction coming to Greene going to allow the folks that have been multi-generational Greene County residents to stay? It would seem this would be a gentrifying factor for those that are multi-generational or on a fixed income in Greene.
Well, my family's multi-generational. They have property in Greene. My family will still stay in Greene because they already currently have property. Yeah, I think what the comment is getting to, and hopefully I get this correct, is are we, by bringing in additional growth, are we pricing out people who are on a fixed income? And are we raising the excess values of the existing property to the point that people who have retired, who are at that level of point in their life, are they able to still stay in their homes? That's a concern, and that's something you can be careful about. We're trying to get control of our water, which will help our infrastructure. We're trying to find ways to improve our revenue streams without impacting our citizens. We're trying to look at tourism. The Galamsey situation, that was a lot of opposition to that project, but that's going to bring in revenue to Greene, which will help offset some of the taxes. You cannot have all the services. You can't have all the benefits. You can't have the schools. You can't have the infrastructure where there's some costs associated with it. So how do you pay for those costs? If you don't want residential growth, if you don't want retail growth, you don't want tourism, but you want the benefits, how do we accomplish that goal? And then if you're not careful, the pricing of the homes and the increase of the assessed values and taxes that go up in general can price people out of their homes that they've been in for
I think that's
generations.
more-
And that's the concern you run into.
That's ravaging Charlottesville right now.
Yeah, exactly. So you
So
don't
we
want
just
that to
grew
happen.
80 grand. We just literally grew 80 grand in 2
Right.
months, right? And this time next year, if I'm confident prices are going to increase because
I
the
think they will.
inventory is just not going. It's just simple supply and demand, right?
Right.
So what's going to happen to the person in the rural area, right?
Yep.
They all of a sudden now can't afford it,
Right.
And now they can't afford it, and in comes big bad developer and says, you know what, I'll buy your land from you and just do a bunch of by right subdivisions, and ultimately it'll price out the families that you're trying to protect. That's the secret sauce of the rural area versus the growth area. Is that right, Jim?
There's a regional county, I won't name it, but they, with the citizens' blessings and will, restricted the subdivision of land. So you have to have a very large quantity of land in a county that has limited land, beautiful county, to be able to build a house. And what it's done over the last 20 years is created a situation where you have a lot of people with wealth coming from Northern Virginia, and they are able to afford the land, and everyone else is moving out. So you have wealthy folks, and then you have the people that serve them on their farms and mini estates, and the rest of the middle class and that population is having to move out. The people that have owned land for a long time can't afford to have their kids build because you have to have so much money to be able to afford the property.
That's happening in Crozet.
That sounds
that's
like
Crozet.
That sounds like a county that's a fruit, but I might be wrong.
Now, this one is a little west of there and a little north.
Got it.
Crozet took
A little,
farm.
Yeah.
a little Washington.
Yeah, got it. Understand.
Yeah.
Understand.
Crozet took a farm and chopped it into townhomes and side-by-sides and apartments and single-family detached that are on .08 new construction selling for over $1 million.
So the
Wow.
difference between Crozet decades ago, because that's how long ago it was, and if Crozet would come up now, is 20% of that would now have to be affordable, right? So that's the difference, right? So if Ned's super frustrated, and many folks are, that we don't have the developer incentives done in Albemarle County, but the plan says if you're going to do another. If you were ever to do another Crozet or Old Trail, 20% of it has to be affordable. So, that's a positive step forward, in my opinion.
I agree, yeah.
From housing. You shake your head.
Well,
No?
I think that can be successful in some places. That makes it more challenging and limits your inventory. So even though you have a few more houses that are affordable, you don't have the total number of houses that would have helped with general affordability.
Yeah, but the incentives have to be the bonus density,
Right.
right? That's what we're
So
talking
you got to get
about.
it right.
You got to get the math right? You gotta
Neil
get-
says, for what it's worth, Crozet is in Albemarle's development area.
It is.
So wanted us to highlight this. Jason, who's on Rio Road, says, are there plans for anything on the scale of, say, North Point to come to Greene County?
No, absolutely not. Well, only because that'd be almost the entire space available in Greene County. There are plans similar, but much smaller scale, just because we don't
Jim,
have
you're
large
getting
parcels.
them. You're just getting them in multiple projects, right?
Mhm.
You're getting
Yeah.
the density, right? Or
Correct.
compared to instead of one project, it's a several projects, roughly 2,000 or 1,800 or whatever the number is.
Yeah, Northridge is probably almost the same number of acreage in our total growth area.
Yeah, but the number of units is about the same, right? 14, 16, if
Yeah.
I remember correctly.
More questions coming in. What is the Vanessa Parkhill, hello. Nick Poncelan, hello. Ann Clark Ramey, hello. Johnny Ornalis, hello.
Hey,
Owns
Johnny.
Guadalajara and El Mariachi. What jobs are missing? What do you guys want to see from the job front in Greene County?
Good question.
Personally, I like to see more high-tech jobs in Greene County. I mean, that's just me personally. We've got a couple of facilities in Greene that will, employ some individuals, but we don't have the high-tech job market in Greene. We have retail markets in Greene. We have the fast food restaurants. And some of those restaurants are having trouble finding staffing right now. It's like all across the country probably after COVID. We have the retail market. We have the school system for educators. We have local government, but we don't have the high-tech industry. We have very little of that. With broadband coming to Greene, I'm hopeful that we can attract some high-tech industry. I see where we can have a business in Standardsville, and I mentioned several times, where you have a high-tech business that maybe employ 5 to 10 people that has very little impact, and they just come to Standardsville in a small home that's been renovated, and very few people know that it's there, but they have a worldwide market because they can develop either a software or a program or some type of piece of technology. But that's what I see as missing. You may have a different viewpoint.
No, that's exactly right. The jobs that we're trying to attract and that are missing and that are in the economic development study are the military contractors, biotech type people because of our proximity to the university, and banking, believe it or not, are key things for this industry for potential growth. So, and those are the types of jobs that people are driving down here from Greene south to do that type of work. If we have smaller regional offices, if we have defense contractors that employ a lot of high-paying jobs because of our proximity to NGIC, those are the types of jobs that we're targeting for new growth. And then the other growth area for us is tourism. We do have the project that the board approved, upscale glamping, 144 units.
That's awesome.
In a rural area with a spa and a pool and restaurant to serve that.
Were you surprised by the resistance with that?
Yes, I was. I mean,
I was shocked. That's
so-
perfect.
to me, tourism, I know that people, the argument was you don't know who's going to stay there. But we've got a similar to
They spend their money and they leave.
leave. That's exactly right. You want people to come to your area to spend the money in your county and to leave, which won't impact your schools. It won't
Right.
impact any, your traffic is minimum. Of course, people who have property that surround that development, I understand they don't want it beside them. That I get. But the rest of the community, we had people from all across the county in opposition to that project. In fact, the first meeting at the PAC at the high school, I think I was the only one that voted for it. We had several, probably close to 100 different people, 60 to 80 that spoke on the project, and a majority of those people were in opposition to the project. And I'm not sure why. The developer of this project was going to buy all the food, or at least most of the food, from the local farmers. And if you don't give the farmers a place to sell their products, the farmers will no longer be farmers. And that will develop into farmers selling their property to developers who will take their rural areas, and all of a sudden you have homes there. So they had a market for their products. They were going to employ local citizens, which means that the citizens could stay in Greene County. But they were simply, the people who are coming here is going to attract the wrong type of individuals. We don't want that people in our community. And we had the same opposition with Airbnbs.
Yeah.
We had the Airbnbs in R1. And a good point is I asked my wife, and we live in the R1 area, and I said, okay, are you in opposition to somebody who has an Airbnb in a neighborhood? And she looked at me, she goes, how would I know? You wouldn't.
unless somebody creates a problem.
Sure. But that problem would happen if you rented the house out for
Exactly.
long term,
It's
right?
residential use.
It's going to happen no matter what.
And- It'd be a longer
I have a
problem.
more pragmatic viewpoint.
Really?
It's simply
I'm
I like Jim.
I own property. I don't like to see things that I don't like built near me, but I don't own that property.
Right.
Yeah.
If I had
called
Keith or
property
Jerry
rights.
money, I'd buy it maybe, but since I don't have Keith or Jerry money, I have to allow that person to do what they want, just like.
It's called property rights.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I don't want you telling me what to do on my property. You know, I understand there are certain things that can impact the community, so there's certain places for certain types of activities. But if they're doing something that's allowed, more power to them. I can hate it privately, my wife and I can complain about it in our living room, but I would never say anything about it in public because that's their right.
Yeah, here comes the thing. I know a couple people that might want to do some projects around your property. They said, yeah, we don't want to be next to Jim. So it's a two-way street, buddy.
That's
It's a two-way
fair.
street.
Tip of the cap to Brent Wilson of
Yeah.
the Free Enterprise Forum,
Yeah.
who covered the glamping policy very closely for the Free Enterprise Forum. How about this one that's come in here? Are the gentlemen on the panel concerned that Greene County's affordability in comparison to Albemarle and Charlottesville are going to lead to the type of growth that are going to push out the Greene County citizens that have been there their entire life? They're basically, this person's, Leslie's saying Albemarle and Charlottesville are getting so expensive that it's pricing out pretty much everybody besides the upper class. And
Yeah.
folks still want to live in the area, so they're now scooping up real estate in Augusta and Waynesboro and Greene County and Fluvanna.
I mean, it's a concern. I mean, I'm not going to say it's not, because what you're saying is true. People come in, and get it back, if I have a piece of a farm, let's say I got a farm, and I'm not selling a product, and somebody comes in to offer me a chunk of change for it, and I'm at a point where I can retire or not, I'll sell that property, and now it's either owned by an individual who can afford that property, build a nice large home on that property, and that property's probably a lot cheaper than they could afford in Northern Virginia. We've seen that quite a bit. I've seen individuals who have moved here from Northern Virginia, from California to Greene County, who have sold their smaller homes and bought larger homes. So I would probably be lying if I say it's not a concern. The question is, what do you do to make sure that does not happen? And that's where the comprehensive plan comes in. That's why you try to follow the comprehensive plan. That's why a political body needs to understand the comprehensive plan. They need to understand what they're voting on, and they need to be sure they understand the project being presented to them before they cast a vote.
You mentioned, what was that word you said? Property rights.
Property rights rights matter.
So
Multiple people are putting.
look at the options. With the code, because of property rights, doesn't allow government to prohibit growth. So growth is coming. If you put it in your growth area where you have the infrastructure to serve it, and you can serve it in the least expensive way to the taxpayers, that's the best strategy. We've seen communities that put up barriers, add layers and layers and layers of red tape, and
Thank you.
it gets prohibitive. That drives people out faster. That drives your longtime residents out faster because that jumps the real estate price up. When you have no inventory, it's supply and demand, right? How expensive did everything get 2 years ago when you couldn't buy anything because nothing was being made?
I think he's talking about Albemarle County over there.
Could
I think he's talking
very
about
well
Albemarle
be,
County.
but I'm going to segue into that. 2017, the median sales price, single-family detached, no new construction in your county was $237. As of today, it's $418.
Wow.
That's a $181,000
Increase.
jump. That's damn close to double.
Yes.
In my book on that end. Not quite, but awfully close. So to the question, we were talking about that earlier. If we don't increase density, that 418 is just going to grow.
Well, I mean, look at what Olivia Branch just put, and she is the queen of Keswick. She works for Keswick Hall. She's big in tourism. Lock-in, Olivia Branch.
Oh, great.
She says, those against tourists are the same that protest affordable housing, tourism. They are saying they don't want teachers, law enforcement, hospital workers living in their neighborhoods. Those are our neighbors that qualify for affordable housing. We need to do this for them. It's a great comment.
I agree with that.
I can tell you the 23 homes that the Land Trust sold last year with the partnership with Albemarle County did absolutely the right thing and helped us through that. I think with the exception of one, they were all in the service-related, teachers, cops.
Frontline workers, that's what they're
EMS.
called.
Frontline workers, there you
EMS,
go, frontline
firefighters.
workers. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
even you,
and
you do
mediums-
commercial
Real estate,
brokerage.
yeah.
You do real estate. Think of communities that are well-known for disregarding or having underfunding or having poor public schools. So it's a big thing to be against public schools right now, but do businesses and people come to communities that have regarded poor public schools? Education is a key point to economic development. In Greene, there was a lot of investment, a lot of
Crozet's a
improvements
perfect
made to the
example of
schools.
that.
Yeah.
They go for the schools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's 100% right.
So when a buyer walks in looking for something, looking for help us to buy a home for them, the first question used to be, particularly if it was had children, schools.
Right.
Number one is broadband right now, right? Do they have broadband? What's the upload? What's the download speed down on it? Then the second, again, if they're not of a certain age, it's the schools. And then if they're the certain age, it's not so, it's not such an important thing to
You have
them.
great grandkids that go to school, right?
Yeah, but not in this area. Did you say great grandkids?
He did. It's funny.
You
caught
realize
it,
I got
caught it.
hearing aids on, and sometimes, yeah.
Oh, Jim, that was good.
Yeah, Jim, I'm going to make you wear the hat, Jim.
I like it. I love it. I love it.
That would be a kind gesture.
Yeah.
Would be the kind gesture of you. Oh, well done, well played.
Give back-
You should hold the hat up so you know what.
Go
everybody
ahead,
knows
Dale.
what
Go
they're-
ahead.
The quick point I'll make, a lot of people who move to the area a lot of times don't check on their broadband, but after they move in, then they call us up and say, we don't have broadband. And it's like, I don't know if you've had that a lot recently. But it's changed because we will have broadband, but we've noticed that in the past when residents move in from an area that has broadband, they never checked it with their buyer or their agent.
Yeah.
They
Well, I'm
didn't
not
ask the
going to
question-
disparage anybody
Yeah.
in my industry.
Yeah, I'm not either, but that's
that's the number one thing you want to look at.
Yeah.
We're helping a buyer out in Nelson County because Nelson County has freaking internet. Jesse Rutherford. Right.
That's who's watching.
Right, Jesse Rutherford.
We love you, Jesse.
I'll say it one more time, Jesse
We won't
Rutherford.
go that far. We'll
We
see.
are.
We like him.
He pays us to say we that.
Oh, is that what it, okay. I see how it works. All right.
But this particular individual worked for IBM up in D.C.
So high speed's definitely.
Young millennial buyer, getting married, wants to have a kid,
Yep.
works remotely, found a piece of home in the mid threes, right? Okay, I make enough money, it works. I got high-speed internet, I'm done.
Yeah.
But we were getting down to the granular of upload and download, and so what we do during the home inspection, we ask if we can connect into it, and we do some zooming while we're doing it, just to make sure
That it works for you.
that it works.
That's smart.
I'm curious, there's a fear that access to broadband will overwhelm the rural areas. I'm curious to see as it unfolds.
I don't
if it
understand that
will.
fear.
Well, I think it can offer an outlet to people who are having to drive to keep their property.
Yeah.
Having to do extra jobs to keep their property. If they can stay home and manage the farm more effectively or the property more effectively,
You
that
decrease
might
your costs.
help support and save some of the
Well,
lands.
you also have telemedicine. You also have things you can if you're a farmer, you can manage your property with electronics, with technology. You can
What's your day job?
I
IT.
forget.
What is the fear of broadband
He works.
gentrifying the community? What's that fear? Help me understand that.
So there's a fear that's been expressed to me before, and other people I've seen it in articles, that because people can work anywhere, they'll live anywhere. So instead of living in the growth area, they'll just pave over the rural area and live there because now they can.
But that's what's going to happen if you can't provide that buyer in the growth area what they want. They will go out that way. Broadband is market driven. The market wants it. It's going.
Right.
It's going out there. I will disagree with you a little bit, Jim. I think that's a little lagging COVID thinking. We're starting to see in the numbers that NAR's
Folks
putting
going
out.
back.
Yeah.
Folks are going back, right? So it's more, we've been talking, Jerry and I, for a long time about this. Eventually, we're going to get kind of this hybrid kind of scenario. So this guy from IBM has to go up to Northern Virginia 2 or 3 days. I think it's 2 days a week, right? The 3 other days he gets to work from home. So it's kind of a both of the best world. He has to be present for a couple of days and then goes back and works at home. But this whole thing we're talking about is this aircraft carrier that's been full speed, and it may be half, but that aircraft carrier is still moving. And if it's something that big, it takes a long time for it to slow down, and it's moving.
How about from Neil? Neil's asking good questions today. How's the search for a new Greene County administrator?
We, at this point, right now, it's actually going very well. We have had hired an external firm to bring candidates to us. We have looked at some candidates that have been brought to us for final review, and then we will have an interview starting sometime in the near future. So we hopefully have that process finalized. I'm saying probably within the next, I'm hopeful within the next 4 weeks. We may have a new county administrator. I know our interim county administrator, she is definitely excited about that. I gave her a hard time saying she had not applied for the county administrator position, and her name was down on the list. So it's going well. We're very fortunate. We had a lot of people apply. We had a lot of talented people, and I was surprised at the caliber of the applicant. And we have applicants from all across the country and local as well. And to be quite honest with you, all those that we saw that were brought to us were top notch.
It's fantastic. That's a good update.
It's a good point to segue, though. You had asked earlier how I do the different interim jobs that I have, and it's because we have great staff. So we're also down a finance director right now, so our interim county administrator
You wearing that hat too?
has done a tremendous amount of work. Interim deputy finance director, yeah, just so I can sign things. When
Are you paying them any more money? Hey, I'll negotiate for you 10%. Let's do this.
But we have a really motivated, active, knowledgeable staff, and that allows people to pick up and step up when we're down on.
You may not want to answer this question. Why so much staff turnover?
It's not as much as it sounds. The finance director had been with Greene for a number of years, and she retired.
She reached retirement.
She was able to retire, and I was very happy for her that she was able to retire. So she had retired. The gentleman that left for the Water Authority, he went back to where he was closer to his home. He was traveling some, and we left on great terms. You have a lot of respect for the individual. So the turnover, a lot of that is some of it is just natural occurrence.
Sure.
And of course, our previous county administrator, it was very public when that happened. He's now the superintendent of Spotsylvania County Schools. So it's not like we have a problem with staffing. Our staff are probably the most important part of our local government. They're more important to what takes place on a day-to-day basis than any elected official ever will be.
When you have only a 13 staff to run Parks and Rec,
Yep.
planning and zoning, building inspections, payroll, human resources administration, accounting, one person leaving is a big,
It's a big deal.
impact.
Huge
Big
impact.
impact, yeah.
Huge impact on that. So let's touch water a little bit, right? Just a
Okay.
quick update, right? Because we're going to do 1,800 some odd units, right? We now have control of, if I understand it correctly, our own water authority.
We
Is that
will
correct?
soon. We'll soon, we hope. Yep, very
That's
soon.
the new director's waving his hand here.
it's like not there yet, but very soon. And to clarify, these places, these homes were actually approved with the existing water supply.
Okay, great.
So that's they've been pre-approved using current water supply. And I'll let you address the time frame because we're very close.
We believe we're very close. Some of it is outside of our control. The attorneys always get involved in these things.
Sure.
And the attorneys for both sides have been working diligently to identify and get all the deeds and all the paperwork together to transfer the assets. So it appears that everyone will be ready by the 16th of this month to approve the asset transfer documents, all of those, the deeds and everything. From there, depending on that date, we can set a closing date within 14 days of when everybody's comfortable.
Sure.
So if the 16th is the date that we're anticipating, if everybody agrees that we can go ahead and set a date, we're being and working to be prepared for the changeover April 1.
So this is a real estate transaction too, right? So
Correct.
You're transferring assets on that. But on the operational side, you guys have been kind of
Been running for a while.
Running for a while,
So
right?
we're operating the water plant and the wastewater plant. The current staff at RSA had allowed us in early, provided training, and so our operators are running both those plants.
And they have for some time now, right?
For the last, at different levels, now they're pretty much completely running the plants. RSA is still doing the sampling, and that
Okay.
part of it will take that over. But yeah, for a month and a half or so.
Yeah.
And I'll ask a developer question. So how much capacity do we have? How much capacity do we have built in the water and the sewer to grow above this 2,000 or 1,800?
So right now, we have 1.15 million gallons per day capacity. We're using somewhere between 600 and 700,000, so we're 60-70% capacity. That's 7 years at the growth rates that we have.
Got it.
We don't want to push it that tight, but the construction can begin once we take over. The construction will be 3 to 5 years, and it will be 3.5 times the capacity that we
So
have.
you're
that's
going to
gonna
be
empower
jumping up to almost 4 million.
3.5,
3.5 million. That's almost 4
with
million.
expandability also.
Yeah. What about on the sewer side?
Sewer side, we are less than 60% on the sewer side. So we have plenty of capacity on the sewer side.
So that's
And that plant already has space for expansion.
For those who are listening, that's super important information. So you've got the growth capacity in the systems to grow above that particular number. And this is the reason why I've now switched my thinking that Green is really positioned well. If it happens or not from a rezoning perspective or political perspective is one thing, but from a capacity perspective, it's there. What about the schools? We've got enough capacity to handle that kind of growth?
The schools, right now, the actual enrollment in the schools has dropped, believe it or not. So that's surprising. So
What do you attribute that to?
I think you have probably more homeschooling after COVID. And I think during COVID, a lot of people have done some homeschooling. So I think that's probably a potential there. And also, the school population will vary from year to year. You may have a kindergarten class that has a huge number, and then it will kind of drop off. So I think part of that is related to homeschooling. I expect those numbers will definitely come back up. It hasn't been, but we're seeing drops in certain grade levels, which is a trend over a period of time that the enrollment is currently dropping. So the schools the school project we recently did was designed to minimize the cost going forward as the enrollment increased. So we are well aware of the fact that in the Ruckersville area, we're going to need another school. And so that is one of the things
It's in
that
your CIP though, right?
yeah, so we're looking at that. We're trying to, we're trying to plan for that growth. Ruckersville area is growing. We know that's where the next school will need to be. So we're trying to make sure we look, and I know that, Mr. Friedel and staff has been closely monitoring that to try to see what opportunities are out there. I know the superintendent has been closely looking at that as well. And that was what was frustrating to me about one project that came forward. It had 17 acres, I think, that was being donated for a school.
That's right. Yeah.
And the school board came to the board of supervisors stating that this is a perfect location, and they said it's on the right side of 29. Literally, it was on the right side of 29, on the eastern side of 29, and they would have developed a community where kids could actually have walked to school. You had the property for the school, and that would have been perfect for future growth.
Sounds perfect.
Yeah, but
Within 3 miles of 65% of the population.
Sounds perfect. What screwed it up?
I can't answer that. I voted for it. Another board member voted for it. There was this misconception by a lot of people that spoke. It was the changing of 600 zone for senior homes to a normal subdivision, if you will, with a mixed population. And some people felt like the development would not take place at all, leaving it as it is. And so I think some people had a misconception that it's 600 homes that will never be built. And they were saying, we want to keep that area like it is. We don't want to change. There's also the question about traffic and the impacts on traffic. And it came before us again, and right now it's been deferred for another decision, so development influence again. One of the comments I made, being that person who is over 60, I much prefer a 30 to 40-year-old driver pulling out into a major highway than 600 60-year-olds, and I hate to be that way, but I know what my reactions are, and I can state that because
I'm in that.
So,
boat.
so that's just my viewpoint. Now, you've got to respect everybody's viewpoint. It is a political process, and you can address that more if you like.
There are some fair concerns regarding if it's senior only versus mixed development. There is a higher traffic count with a mixed development than senior only, and there are more school impacts. And I think for those that were concerned, not the people that were confused that if they didn't act that 600 homes would not come, because 600 homes will be built there regardless. But there were a few people that had concerns and fair concerns about a slight increase in traffic, and so their concerns were that it had a bigger impact than they felt comfortable with.
And to be fair, people who live on that side of 29 have seen some significant traffic backups on 33. And VDOT's trying to address those issues. So to be fair to those individuals, when they complain about the increase in traffic, those individuals that had that complaint and made valid comments were looking at the 33 impact we've already been seeing, especially on Friday afternoon.
And when you're looking at an engineering drawing on page, it's hard to understand that will actually improve traffic.
Sure.
But that construction is already underway to make that improvement, and it includes the growth for these homes.
So this is a statewide stat. So according to United Van Lines, what they do is they do a move in, move out, right? So 2022, state of Virginia, over 55, there was 52% of the folks that moved into our state were over the age of 55. In 2017, that number was 35%.
Wow.
Okay.
So we jumped from 35% to 52% since 17 to 2022 of inbound, my age and up.
People retiring in Virginia.
Little south of my age, but somewhere around there and up, who 55 and over do not have children in most cases, right? That's part of why your schools are decreasing. Most of the buyers coming into your areas are in my county and Nelson County are more like me, age-wise.
I mean, that's literally what Kevin put in the feed. He goes, people retiring into Green, selling their homes in Albemarle and Charlottesville and moving to Green and retiring.
So I'm going to try for
Well,
future...
the affordability is a big factor there.
Huge
because
delta there.
If
Yeah.
I'm starting out with 2 kids, I can't afford the same house that someone who's in their 70s like Keith can afford.
He said you got a bag of money because you got no debt on that house. That's what he said. He gave you some props there.
Well,
gave you
all I
love.
heard was 70.
He gave you love right there.
Who was
He
it?
gave you love.
Chris Fairchild. Right? I love him to death, and we sometimes don't see eye to eye. When I turned 60, he sent me a text and goes, "Damn, son, I thought you were 60 10 years ago." So,
Dale, you'll appreciate this from Neil. Neil goes, wow, Friedel knows his sewage.
Yes, he does.
The Slinger's favorite comment is that some of us are born to sewage and others have it thrust upon us.
Oh, Neil, you crack me up. You're making me laugh from your abode in Green or either your office on Hillsdale Drive. Gentlemen, it's 11:35. I love when Green is in the house. You guys are just, I'd belly up to any bar and hang out and talk shop with you guys any day of the week. Dale, why don't you take a moment and offer some perspective, and then Jim, you follow suit of why you're so pumped of everything that's happening positively in Greene County right now.
Green's a great community. I mean, like I said, you've mentioned several times it's growing. It's a great place to be. We've got so much potential. We're a small geographical county with a huge potential, and we're just beginning to see that potential take place. Our school division is doing great things. Broadband is coming to Greene County. We're going to own our own water infrastructure soon and being in charge of that. That's been going on since 1969, and there's been a push, not since that time frame, but over probably at least a decade or so, to try to get that back. So we're in control of our own destiny. So we have more control now than we did 10 years ago of what we want to see in Greene County. So what we need to do is to take that control, put it to proper use, and make sure we create the community we all want it to be. We want Greene County to be a place that you want to come and visit. We don't necessarily want you to come and stay there, but come visit, spend your money there, and come back home. But if you want to move to Greene County, we want you to move to Greene County, have
my
a place.
accent is, I'm not allowed to go after certain lines.
But if you want to move to Greene County, have a place where you can move, raise your family, go to school, have a community where you can go to do shop in Greene County. You can walk to where you want to go. We want Greene County to be the place that everybody aspires to be.
Well
Love
done.
it.
Well said.
That was well said. That was beautiful. Jim, you got that to follow right there.
Mine's simpler, opportunity. So, if we follow the citizens' plans, we can have that opportunity with the least impact possible. In 20 years from now, we'll know whether it was missed opportunity or gained opportunity.
We may not know it.
Well,
20 years.
Your kids will.
That's true. Our kids
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
Well, time will only tell, right? That's a.
You guys are good
Oh, wow.
stewards of Greene, man.
Dale went great, then he got real morbid here again.
So
How many generations in Greene for you? Is it 3?
No, it's probably more than that. I've had relatives back, I think, as far as, if I checked it correctly, 17 or 1800, early 1800s.
That's
I've had,
awesome.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly.
So
I haven't
I'm
done
really not going in that county with my accent.
I haven't
awesome.
done the actual tree, but at least 3 generations, 4, I think
Wow.
longer.
I love
Jerry's
that.
looking at the three of us and saying, man, I'm going to have to go to 3 funerals soon.
We can do a joint funeral.
What the
save
hell?
money.
Yeah.
We do a joint funeral.
I
Really
hope
morbid.
not. I
Talk
like
about
you
morbid,
guys.
Friedel. I was literally going to chime in and try to say, hey, can I get you? Can we give this guy a little bit more money? But after that, I don't know
I
if
love
I want
you guys.
I want to go ahead and.
Statistically, we're like 80% dead already.
Okay.
Can I ride home with you?
You guys have youthful spirits.
I think after that comment, I'm just going to go to the bar and say screw it.
Which bar do you go to? You
The
tell
one right
everybody.
over there.
Do you walk to tap? Well, you can go to that bar. You can go to that bar. All right, Keith Smith, sneak peek for Monday show, my friend.
Monday's Batman and Robin. Just
very
you and I
nice.
looking forward to it.
I Alfred will be back on Monday.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
You know, Alfred did really good remotely
I know.
today.
Alfred's in California. Our director, Judah's in California. Nothing serious, but he's looking after a great aunt in California right now. He's back in the saddle on Monday.
Good man. Yeah. So Monday, it's just me and you. We're gonna maybe do some case studies and just have a lot of fun, man.
I love it.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thanks for having us.
This
Appreciate
is
it.
a lot of fun. You know,
Enjoy it.
I think the world, and just I'd be remiss. You know, all local elected officials do a lot of things, but you also do a lot of things. You're on a lot of boards and commissions, and I wanted
you.
to say thank you for all the work that you do for him.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate
him
it.
forget about. I was going to try to get him more money, but he just went downhill fast.
These guys are fantastic stewards of Greene County, guys, and props to Keith Smith for welcoming Jim and Dale to the show. It's a Real Talk with Keith Smith, where we have fun. We take topics that are difficult and we make them approachable and in an entertaining, enlightening, and educational setting. Real Talk with Keith Smith, online at realtalkwithkeithsmith.com. Thank you kindly for joining us on a Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Thanks,
Appreciate
guys.
it.
Oh yeah,
Appreciate
probably, we have to wait for the mics to get up before we can talk bad about me.
it. Not at all. Nothing bad to say.